Hey everyone, welcome to that Halloween Kills movie book club. Yes, it's finally here. It only took over a month to finally do this. Well, truth be told, it was put off for the holidays, and then things just got real busy at work, and I just couldn't squeeze it in. Like every time it would pop up on a Thursday, I had to work late. Then I tried it for a Monday, got stuck working late, but we're here, and we're finally doing the book club. And our good buddy Byron has been, Pat, book club this week? And I'm like, I'm trying. But I promised this week it was definitely going to happen. Good to see you, buddy. Ryan Underwood in the hood. Oh, evil dies. Yeah, evil dies at some point, right? Apparently in the next film or the next novel, since we're talking about a book club. And I'm here. Don't know if the boys are popping on or not. They didn't say if they were going to be available or not. But if the boys pop in, then we'll have the whole podcast crew here. If not, you'll get little old me going through the prologue in chapters 1 through 5. And with this novel, as opposed to some of the other novels, the first 5 chapters is very little difference from the film. But it's cool to go through and see what's in there. And I guess we can kick it off. Let's see. So let me bring up my chapters. So there's no names of these chapters. I just tend to give them a name to based on what you're seeing in the reading, I should say, in the book, or listening, because I do audiobook. I have the novelization right here, but I don't have time to actually physically read a book. I just do the audiobooks. Makes life a lot easier. But we can jump in. So the prologue is basically just a recap of everything from what I remember. Yeah, the shape is it's basically the ending of 2018. We see the shape looking up at Karen and Allison and Laurie, because he's trapped down there right before she throws the flare down there to blow up, well, to light the house on fire, I should say. And truth, it always bothered me because the look on his face, he almost looks like sad. Like, why are you doing this to me? Like a sad puppy dog. I don't know. Just the look on the mask. I don't know if you guys see the same thing I'm seeing when I see that image in the film. But yeah. But the cool thing about the prologue is we're inside Michael's mind and we're thinking what he's thinking. He's looking up and he's saying, he's feeling the heat and he sees Laurie, and in his mind, he's referring to Laurie as she who will not die. Because every time he's encountered her, she's the one that gets to live. She gets away from him. So I thought that was kind of cool. She who will not die. And he feels the heat and the smoke, and he's unaffected by it because he has no feeling. That's what the shape is. There's nothing there. And he's thinking to himself, she who won't die, why won't she go down? How many times has he confronted her and trying to take her down, and she bounces back up? So he's actually frustrated in his mind because I don't get it, because rarely does Michael confront anybody and they walk away, right? But it's just saying he feels nothing and he's just completely motionless and it just fades away. Sort of like the film. So now that's all the prologue. It's basically just a recap of the end of the film. So let's go to chapter 1. Chapter 1, I'm calling Cameron Meets Hawkins. So it's basically what you see in the beginning of Halloween Kills. Cameron walking, they have the show like the scenery around, and there's a lot of description of what the town looks like. Cameron walking, he's still in his outfit and carrying the high heels. And he's like, knows he's screwed up with Allison. And he tries calling Oscar, and we know obviously Oscar's not going to answer because Oscar was killed. And make sure I'm not missing anything here. And he's thinking about the night, how everything went wrong. Everything seemed to be good. They were having a great time. But then, of course, Allison gets pissed at him because why? Because he gets all drunk, acts like a jackass, and takes her phone and throws it in a thing of cheese like an idiot. And he's realizing how stupid of him that was. He's thinking about everything he did wrong that whole night and how everything went wrong. Let me just check my notes and make sure I'm not missing anything. Of course, I can't change the page. There we go. He knew Allison was upset about his drinking, and because he was being an asshole drinking, and she doesn't like when he drinks. She just wants to be with him. She doesn't want to be with drunk Cameron. And he regretted what he did. That's why he was looking for her to find her to apologize. Now, in the novelization, which I thought it would have when I first, because I've already read this, well, listen to it. I thought they would have had the deleted scene. Now, for those that are not aware of it, there was a deleted scene where in Halloween Kills, where he catches up with Allison and they're talking, and the cops come because they're trying to they enact a curfew and want everybody to leave the dance because of what's happened in Haddonfield, and he becomes a smartass, starts mouthing off to the cops, and he gets arrested. And then that's when Oscar walks. He says, "Well, Oscar, walk her home, make sure she gets home okay." And that's how that plays out. And that's a deleted scene. And it doesn't appear in the novelization, which I thought it would have. So you don't have that scene at all. So Cameron calls Oscar, leaves him a voicemail because obviously he's been killed by Michael. Cameron sees something over the fence. It looks like a body, but he's not sure what the hell it is because it's laying still. But as he gets closer, he sees it slightly moving. And he hops over the fence to see. And he sees how bad the wound is. And he's seeing all the blood come out of Hawkins' neck. And he realizes he's a cop. And he looks at his name tag and sees Officer Hawkins. And he's talking. And then that's when he starts coughing up blood, just like in the film. And he's like, I'm going to call for help. Stay right here. Stay with me. And he's yelling for help. And this is the part where, right, we get that dramatic speech from Hawkins right before we get to one of my favorite things of the trilogy, which is the flashback scene. So he's saying it needs to die. And of course, Cameron's like, what? Who needs to die? What needs to die? And of course he says, because I think it's slightly different. Hold on. If I remember correctly, so I did write it down. He says it, all calls for help. Hawkins gasps. He says he must die. It needs to die. So Cameron calls 911. Hawkins looks up at the moon, and so now we're in Hawkins' head. So he's looking up at the moon and he's thinking how it's like almost like a full moon that night, and it almost looks like a white mask. Almost looks, because if you look at the moon in a certain way, it almost looks like there's a face in the moon. Maybe it's just me. I always saw that as a kid. It almost looked like a creepy face in the moon. So he's looking up as if he's looking at Michael's mask, and that's what he's thinking just before he passes out. And of course, then he's thinking back to the events of 78, which is going to foreshadow right into chapter 2. And we know where we're going, right? So we're going to chapter 2, and then we're going to Hawkins chases Michael. So this is the flashback scene in the novelization. And it's just as cool in the novelization as it is on film. So we flash it back to Halloween. It's Haddonfield, Halloween, October 31st of 78. So Hawkins is 25 years old. And of course, we pick up just like in the film, he's running through the streets looking for, but here there's a little bit more. He's running around the streets before he gets to that alley, because you see him run down the alley. That's where he first encounters Michael in the film. And he's thinking, oh my God, he already killed 3 people, and they keep saying 3 people. So obviously it's early and they're only finding the 3 teenagers and nobody else, which really would only be at this point, the Phelps tow truck driver. So, and he's remembering Michael's parents, thinking about the whole Meyer situation, the house, remembering whatever happened to them, how they just disappeared. All the rumors around the family, rumors that they moved away, changed their name, and started a new family because of all the events, and they didn't want to be around everything. Let's see. And it was all different. I think he was thinking about all the different folklore around Michael, about how the house is haunted. Michael, he was locked in his basement and his parents treated him bad, or the Myers house was possessed. All the shit you make up about a haunted house in your town. So he's thinking about all that stuff because it's going through his head like, I can't believe this is actually happening, because there was always that house that stood there forever, and the stories of Michael Myers. So then, of course, Hawkins is nervous about using his gun because now he's a rookie. He's 25 years old. So he's like, oh my God, do I actually have to get my gun out? And he was thinking he's afraid this guy just killed 3 people. So he's obviously a madman. Is this the first time you want to encounter somebody as a police officer? Is this like a lunatic killer? So it's pretty frightening. So he was definitely scared. So he turns down the alley and he sees Michael and he calls for him, just like in the film. Hold on 1 second. Take a quick sip of a drink. So Michael calls for Michael. No, Hawkins rather. Michael calls for Michael. Hawkins calls for Michael and says, to stop. And he turns to Hawkins. And this is slightly different than from the film. In the film, he just turns, looks at him, and starts to walk away. That's when Hawkins shoots at him and says, I don't understand. He just disappeared. It's as if he just vanished. In the novelization, he turns towards Hawkins and starts walking towards Hawkins. Hawkins shouts at Michael, better stop. And then he just frighteningly shoots. And as he does, he's gone. It's just like as if he vanished, just like in the film where he just off into the distance. Then Hawkins runs towards it, just like in the film, looks down and sees the puddle of blood on the ground, just like he saw in the film. So he knows that's the way he went. And he's thinking to himself, whatever bleeds can die. So they have to go shoot him to kill him because they know they can kill him. Well, he knows. So Sullivan, Tobias, and McCabe show up, just like in the film, to help Hawkins. And Hawkins is yelling, where were you? Like, I've been calling for you. He was just here. Where was my backup? And they were telling the story about how Loomis says he shot him 6 times, and they're like, we don't understand. How could he get shot 6 times and get away? So let me turn the page. So McCabe gives orders to search different streets, just like in the film, like, go to Chestnut South by the bypass, and how they're all meet up and they're just scour the area for him. Hawkins is saying, McCabe is thinking, we have to capture him. And Hawkins is saying, and he's the one that's being aggressive, saying, catch him. We have to shoot and kill him. Do you know what he did to Sheriff Brackett's daughter? He killed his daughter, Annie. Hey, if we see this guy, just kill him and be done with it. And McCabe's like, no, we can't do that. That's not procedure. So obviously Hawkins was, vengeful, and as a rookie, he was ready to just shoot and kill him. So McCabe, yelled at Hawkins, like, we can't do that. And of course, McCabe starts talking to Hawkins and tell him, like, I knew him. My parents used to make me go over there and play with him, and he was quiet. He always used to just look out his sister's window, and just one day he just snapped. It was weird. Let's see. And then they look off in the distance, like you see in the film, where they're looking at the radio tower, which is going to come into play in Halloween Ends, saying it's just an ordinary town. McCabe says, nothing ever happens. Now, then we flash over, just like in the film, we flash over to Lonnie and the Mulaney's. Those creepy Mulaney's, and they're surrounding him, and they're ready to kick his ass for stealing their brother Conrad's candy. Conrad said you stole his candy, and of course Lonnie's lying. It was Richie, and they reached into his bag and throw his bag, and they're throwing shit at him and hitting him with the gobstopper like in the film. And they tell the story of what happened in the book, like the author saying how Conrad and Lonnie were good friends, but he was pissed. He's like, everywhere they went, Conrad was getting lucky and getting all the good candy, and he was just getting shit like bubblegum and everything. And apparently Lonnie hates bubblegum. So finally he just pushed Conrad and grabbed this candy bar and took off. And he was actually feeling guilty about it. He felt bad. He was actually going to go back and apologize. So let's see. He felt bad, and he actually started back to apologize when the Mulaney's came and confronted him, because he was actually going to go back and say I'm sorry and give the stuff back, because Conrad was a good friend of his. So Lonnie wasn't all that bad. Then of course they teased him, like I said, and then Lonnie lies, blames it on Richie, mentions then he's thinking about how they went to the Myers house earlier and they were having fun, and then they got chased away by Dr. Loomis. Get your ass away from there, Lonnie. What's up, Ryan? I'm at the gym just popping in. Hey, what's up, Ryan? So, good to see you, man. Man, I don't know where you get the stamina to keep going to the gym. I'm too old for that shit. They put Lonnie in a headlock. Man, I can't read my own handwriting. I wrote this shit so quick. They put him in a headlock and they throw his candy away, like I said, and you don't fuck with the Mulaney's, just like they say in the film. And the police car pulls up, and of course they're acting like, oh, they're all hanging out and they're all buddy because they don't want the police to suspect anything, but the police probably wouldn't have noticed it because they were on a mission. And they say, what are you guys doing out here? And he said, of course, we're hanging out with our new friend Lonnie. He's like, well, you need to get home because you can't be out on the street. And it was because they said, well, why? What's going on? They said, well, somebody killed 3 teenagers up the block. So, of course, they were like, what? So, of course, then they take off, leaving Lonnie. Lonnie goes and picks up his bag of candy and starts walking off. Just like basically like in the film. Not too much of a deviation. So that is chapter 2. Chapter 3. Did Michael kill again? Yes. The infamous scene with the pseudo Dr. Loomis, which looked amazing. Chapter 3. Let's see. So now it's basically just like the film with a little bit of a little difference here. So Lonnie's walking by himself, just like in the film, and he's creeped out. Like, like sometimes when you feel like somebody's either watching you or you're scared, you just get the hairs on the back of your neck stand, or you get goosebumps. So he's feeling like there's something off. Like he's scared because, of course, he heard what happened, that his friends all left him alone. He's walking home by himself. So, and he felt remorse. He's thinking to himself, feeling remorse, like, well, maybe this is my penance for being such a shitty friend to Conrad. So maybe I deserve this. So, he did have a pretty good conscience. And he was thinking about, Conrad and school and all this other shit. And so Lonnie sees the tall hedge ahead of you. Now, if you remember in the deleted scene, which I thought was a great scene, they should have kept it in there. He's walking, and there's a hedge. There's a tall hedge, and Michael standing and then disappears, just like the infamous hedge scene in the 78 movie. And it was a deleted scene, which I thought was great. But in here, he's looking at the hedge, and he's thinking, did I see something back there? Almost as if he was saying to himself, wow, somebody could easily hide behind there and jump out and scare me. So then he hears something behind him as he's looking towards and walking towards the hedge, and he's afraid to turn around because he knows he hears something this time. Like he hears like footsteps. So he turns around, and who does he see standing there but Michael? Now this is a little bit different than the film, and it's a little different than the deleted scene. So now he turns and he looks, and he's confronted by Michael and sees him standing there. And then he's like frozen there, but then Michael starts walking towards him. And of course he's not running towards him because it's Michael. He's too coolio over schoolio to run. He's just starts walking towards Lonnie, and he hightails it out of there. He freaks out, and then that's the scene. That's actually the scene where you pick up in the film where you see him running down the street because he's running from Myers. And then of course he trips and falls, and as he gets his composure and looks up, that's when he sees, just like in the film, he looks up and sees Michael over him, and he starts freaking out. He's like, oh my God, no, don't hurt me, whatever, covering his face, and just like in the film. And then, of course, Michael stealthily leaves and goes to the Myers house, which is right across the street from where Lonnie fell. And of course, he hears voices and people walking up, and he's scared, and they call to him, hey, kid, you okay? And who is it but Hawkins and McCabe, just like the movie. Let's see. Make sure I'm not missing anything as I'm rambling on. Let's see. 1, 2. And he falls, looks up, and they ask him, who'd you see? And he's like, it wasn't a man, it was a monster. So he screams, and this was actually all before that. He's thinking to himself, this isn't a man, this is a monster, before he looks up and he hears Hawkins and McCabe. So as he opens his eyes and sees them, like, kid, you okay? Everything all right? What's the matter? And just like the film, he says, where did he go? And they're like, where did who go? That's when I always hated this part of that scene where They say, "Who?" And he says, he says, "The boogeyman." And he looks right at the camera. Like you're breaking like the fourth wall, like you're wherever they say third wall or fourth wall, where you're looking into the camera. That always bothered me because there was no reason for him to look into the camera and say, "The boogeyman." It's a movie. He could have just looked at them and said, "The boogeyman." Just something that irked me about the film, among a few other things. But let's not go there. We'll get to that when we get to different chapters. So let's see. Then they see the Myers house, and then before he runs away, he's thinking about what happened earlier, how he was at the Myers house and how it played out, where he was dared to go in, and Dr. Loomis said, "Get your ass away from there." So he's thinking about it as he's looking at the house, and he just runs away. He runs off just like the film. Excuse me. So Hawkins is wondering who would. So of course they start walking towards the house, and there's a big exposition in this of describing the house, how it's weathered and it's like gray now because it needs to be painted, and it's just a rundown, shitty old house. It's boarded up. The windows are boarded up, which you don't really see, but it says the windows are all boarded up, all with the exception of Judith's windows, which we'll get to. And then Hawkins is thinking, well, there's a Strode for sale sign here. Who the hell is going to buy this place? He's thinking to himself. So they head into the house because it's unlocked. We know because earlier we realized that Michael busted the door open. And they notice how moldy it smells in there, and it's just dank. And there's it's just a heavy feeling in there, just like it's just not comfortable, and there's cobwebs everywhere. So it's like a creepy old horror, like haunted house. So they just search around just like in the film, and the scene, McCabe and Hawkins see the dead dog. So in the film, you have McCabe who sees the dead dog while Hawkins is in a different room, which is different than this. Here they both find it, and they make note of how Hawkins bends down to look at the dog, and notice the dog has no eyes and no tongue. And he's thinking, who the hell would do this? It's bad enough you killed the dog to eat it. Why it was missing its eyes and its tongue? Yeah. So they start searching the house, just like in the film. And Hawkins is thinking, like, I wonder how McCabe's feeling about being in this house, knowing he was in it years before. When Myers was, before he turned, he used to go to the house, like we said earlier, because his parents used to make him go there and play with Michael. So he was thinking, like, I wonder how it feels knowing now, after what happened 15 years ago, after what happened earlier this evening with Myers, and knowing how he is, and he's still on the loose. So it's got to be real creepy. So they get to the top of the stairs, and McCabe sees a closed door near Judith's room, just thinking it was a linen closet. That'll play into it a little bit later. So McCabe, I guess Hawkins was thinking about the negative energy in the house, but McCabe didn't believe in any of that stuff. He's thinking about, and of course he thinks about Michael and thinks about what he did to Judith, and he's thinking that he stabbed her. Like, I can't believe he stabbed her 9 times. So it makes notice that he was stabbed that she was stabbed 9 times. So there's McCabe, and he's in Judith's room, and like I said earlier, from the outside, they notice all the windows are boarded up except for Judith's room. So when he's in Judith's room, he sees that the windows are not boarded up, and he can see all the broken wood on the ground, on the floor rather. So he knows he's in that house somewhere, and if he's not in here, he was definitely here, because who broke all the boards away so they can look out that window, right? And then that's, of course, when he looks down. Well, actually, right here, he looks down just like in the film. Remember, he looks down and there's that stinger sound, and he sees the bloody footprints of Michael's boots. And McCabe tries to clean the window because it's so filthy and disgusting to try to look out it, and he sort of sees something through the dirty window, like a shape, and he can't make out what it is. So he's thinking, like, what the hell am I looking at? Is this something that Michael was seeing there? And it could have been anything. It could have been dirt. I don't think it's really too deep. So, and then, of course, he says the famous line before Michael goes at him, Haddonfield, where nothing exciting happens. And, of course, Michael comes out of what he thought was a linen closet door that was closed, but it was actually a separate. They didn't realize there was 2 entrances to that bedroom. So he went in one. Michael came through here. Had they known that, they could have covered both of them together. And then no, Hawkins is actually going to make mention of that a little bit later. So, of course, Michael attacks McCabe, wraps rope around his neck, the rope he probably stole from Nichols Hardware. Now, all he took was rope, a couple of knives, a mask, right? Halloween mask. So Hawkins draws his gun on Michael, just like the film. And he, of course, Michael hides behind McCabe, uses him as a shield. And of course, he can't get a shot. And McCabe is, turning blue because he can't breathe. And then finally, through all of that, McCabe finally gets out. For fuck's sake, shoot, because he's like, he's going to strangle me. Just take a shot. And of course, Hawkins takes a shot. What happens? He hits McCabe in the neck. So of course, McCabe goes down. Michael drops everything and just walks off, just like in the film, like a robot. Hawkins gives chase, sees Michael walk out and takes a shot, but sees Michael walk down the stairs and out the front door. And he goes back to McCabe because, just like in the film, because he's thinking to himself, should I get this guy? Or, I just shot my partner. He's going to die. Let me go check on him. So he opts to go back by McCabe. And then he starts hearing all the noise outside. He hears sirens. And he realizes that, the cavalry is outside. So, and he hears, and he's hearing Loomis in the outside. Just like in the film, you hear Loomis's voice before you see him. And he's like, get back, stand back. Because Michael's outside and Michael just stops at the end of the stoop and just stands there. So this plays out a little bit different. So in the film, you see Dr. Loomis at the bottom of the stairs looking up. And he's saying, Officer Hawkins, what happened in there? Did Michael kill again? Just like in the film, but instead, Hawkins is downstairs. He's on the front porch and he's looking at Michael standing there. So it's just a little different scene than the film where he's at the top of the stairs looking down, which I think would have been a cool image. Let me see if I miss anything else here. No, and that's how chapter 3 ends. It's like that cinematic tableau that you see in the film, except whereas you see all the cops drawn and Michael standing there and Dr. Loomis on the porch, had they shot this scene this way, you would have also seen Hawkins standing on the front porch with Dr. Loomis. All right, so that is chapter 3. That was a mouthful, but a good chapter. A lot of shit went on in that chapter. All right, so let's go to chapter 4, the Haddonfield Boogeyman. So chapter 4 is what? Now we're back in 2018 and we're at Mick's Bar in beautiful downtown Haddonfield. And of course, it's the flash to the sign where it's Halloween and open Mick night. Yeah, a little play on words there, a little cheesy. And of course, it gives a big description of Mick's Bar, of all the patrons there, and how it's decorated and how it's a small little dive, basically. And he's calling it a dump. He's like, it's sort of like a dump. What's that, Byron? Yeah, that chapter had a lot in it. Of course, it's my favorite part of the film, truth be told. And it did have little things in there that were slightly different than the film that probably would have been pretty cool. And they make note that on the television, The Thing is playing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Of course, they got to stick that in there. And then we're introduced to Marcus and Vanessa again, which we were introduced to in 2018, but they were just doctor and sexy nurse in 2018 when we see them come out to their car and Michael is standing there. And of course, he forgets his keys and all that other stuff. So you don't really know them until now. Now you're introduced to them, and now they have a name, Vanessa and Marcus. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I just had to want to cough into the microphone. Let's see. So yeah, Marcus, and they both enter the bar. Marcus as a doctor, and of course Vanessa as the sexy nurse. So they discuss. So now they're discussing, just like in the film, what happened at the boss's party. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember in the film if they mention Dr. Mathis by name. Byron, let me know. I know they were discussing what happened at Dr. Mathis' party, but I know he just kept. I thought they just kept referring to him as Marcus's boss. I don't remember if they mentioned him by name as Dr. Mathis, who we'll meet in Halloween Ends, who we find as a scumbag in Halloween Ends, and apparently he's a scumbag in Halloween Kills. because he invited them and basically tried to get him into get him into bed like a threesome. So they talk about how pissed off they were, and I'm thinking to myself now. So apparently he works he's the nurse, because we find out he's the nurse and she's the doctor. They just reverse roles for Halloween, and apparently he's a nurse that works for Dr. Mathis. Okay, now you go to Halloween Ends. Who's a nurse working for Dr. Mathis? Allison, right? So maybe she got his position because he got killed. Thanks, Byron. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to say either way, but Vanessa did say Dr. Mathis' name at the bar. But there's only one line. Okay, I completely forgot. I haven't watched. I do like Kills, but it's been a minute since I actually watched it. I should have watched it before I started reading the book again. So yeah, apparently she did mention Dr. Mathis in the first film, and they mentioned it here again. They're talking about what a piece of shit he is, and she's talking to him, saying you need because he's obviously a worm, so you need to stand up for yourself. You should go in there, and he's like, I'm going to go in there and quit. And she's thinking, of course, he's talked like this before, and he's never done anything about it. So she's still a little annoyed. And then we see Lonnie and Tommy and Lindsay and Marion are there, and it's weird. They keep referring to them as the authors referring to them as like a made up name of what they're doing based on the perception of Marcus and Vanessa, because they don't know their names, but they see them there. Because remember how they were standing right above them and they're being loud, and then at some point Marcus does get a little aggressive and say, hey, we're trying to have a quiet time here. Can you please hold it down? So Lonnie is referred to as Champagne Boy. Tommy is Buzzcut. Then the smoker, right? Let me see. Where's the other one? Smoking lady. She's mentioned, Marion. Buzzcut is Tommy. So and I forget what they mentioned Lindsay as. Maybe you remember, Byron. I don't remember. So they're all talking and they're drinking champagne and they're just chatting and being very loud. Of course, they're getting annoyed, just like in the film. And then you see Tommy on the phone trying to call Lori, and he's not getting the answer. So he hangs up, and they're talking about. So this is different because in the film they don't know about the murders or the bus crash until everybody's phone starts blowing up, and they see the story on television. Here they're talking about the two murders. They're saying, Mary's like, Tommy, don't go crazy. I don't know. We don't know if he was on that bus, and they're talking about the two murders, which is odd. So they're obviously in the book they're only mentioning two murders, so I can only assume that it's Aaron and Dana, but they make no mention that it should be four murders because the at the gas station, one mechanic was killed and the guy in the office, right? So it actually should be four murders. And of course, Tommy's saying it's got to be him, and Tommy's already suspecting him before. You see, like in the film, where he doesn't even know this is going on until they see all the shit that plays out on the TV. So Marion tries lighting a cigarette because she's the cigarette lady, and they're like, "No, you can't smoke in here." So she doesn't smoke a cigarette because she was always known as the smoking nurse. And Marion is saying, "Well, usually when they transport them, they sedate them." So maybe they didn't do it anymore because of the way things have changed over the years when it comes to mental patients and inmates. Because she's thinking if he's sedated, how could he do that? She's probably thinking back to 78 when Loomis was saying, what she was asking Loomis, well, what do I give him when we pick him up? And he says, Thorazine. He'll barely be able to sit up. Loomis says that's the idea because that's what they used to do to them back in the day. So, and then of course, Lindsay's thinking to herself, I wonder if he did escape. So let's see. Vanessa said, so of course, like I said, Vanessa's getting annoyed and saying, can you please tell him to be quiet? And of course, he finally gets some balls up to confront somebody. And they were cool about just like the film, though, sorry, whatever, they go on about it. And then they apologize. So of course, that's when you see, like in the film, he goes up to get another drink for him and Vanessa. And he's talking to Mick. And Mick's wearing a costume that says, this is my Halloween costume, wearing the shirt. And Mick tells them about, don't pay attention to that group. They're part of that whole thing that happened, with Michael Myers and that crazy woman, Laurie Strode, and they're there every year doing their thing. So that's when he finds out, just like in the film, all about it. And Marcus pays, and he sees the thing on the counter, just like you see in the film, and it's tips for treatments. And of course, he's a nurse, so he doesn't want to. He never passes up an opportunity to throw some change into it, where the money's being saved for like treatments, because he's in the medical field. And on it says what? Love lives today, which is going to be changed later to, yes, I'm not even going to say it yet. Not even saying those 3 words. So Tommy, they introduce Tommy as the bird. Well, Lonnie goes up and introduces Tommy and says, he's an accomplished bird whistler, and I used to pick on him, and now he's a good friend. So he comes up and he starts talking about, just like in the film, he starts talking about the Haddonfield boogeyman. Tells the whole story of what happened, about each person's experience. That's there, just like in the film. And of course, that's when Vanessa and Marcus find out all about it. And everybody claps after the story. And then what does he do? This is for you, Laurie, wherever you are. And that's how chapter 4 ends. And we'll go to chapter 5, last chapter for this episode. And I wish he called. Yeah, would have been good. There's a lot of things there where it would have been cool if they had known about. I guess they figured the shock factor of them finding out on the screen in the bar played out in the film. But I think it would have been cool if they already knew going in there, and they were a little unnerved about the night. What if Lindsay Wallace had a Dr. Loomis type of role in Halloween Kills? What do you mean? Lindsay Wallace had a Dr. Loomis type role in Halloween Kills? What kind of a role? I mean, because like a caretaker? Because I mean, she's not in the medical field. I'm not sure. Explain, because I'm curious. But chapter 5, I'm calling Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, because now we're reintroduced to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. And Halloween 2, which we're not even reintroduced. We're introduced theoretically in this timeline, because Halloween 2 does not exist. So we were never actually at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital in this trilogy. It's all brand new. So we flash to Laurie, Allison, and Karen in the back of the pickup truck, just like in the film, and they're driving away. So Laurie is thinking about Michael dying, and she's like, thinking to herself, it's finally over. Oh, like a caretaker. That could have been weird. That would have been weird, because I don't know if you'd want to be a caretaker if somebody tried to kill you, but maybe if she had gone into that field, right? She could have worked at Smith's Grove. I get that. Yeah. So it was Laurie. So yeah, she's thinking about Michael finally dying, and Laurie, and she's really teetering on the brink of death. So she's telling, Karen, saying, hold on, we're going to be there soon. And she's telling Karen, just let me go. She's, I'm tired. I just want to sleep. It's done. I just want to go. Thinking she could die in peace, thinking that he's dead, because she thinks he's dead. So right before she passes out, it wakes her from her passing out. She starts to hear the sirens. She starts to hear the fire trucks come by, just like in the film. And of course, she wakes her up and she freaks out. Let it burn. They're like, don't know, let it burn. And they're all screaming. And she passes out after that. So then when she wakes up, now we're at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. And she's thinking about being. So here's what they mentioned. That she's thinking about being there in 78 after what happened that night. So obviously she did go to Haddonfield Memorial, but obviously we didn't see it because Halloween 2 doesn't exist. So, and then Laurie sees and hears them bringing bodies in, and then she's thinking, well, he wasn't there just after me. Obviously he killed a bunch of other people, and the bodies are starting to make their way into the hospital. So just as the doctor comes and asks her name, she passes out again. Karen checks her in and says, they say, what's the last name? She said Strode. And then in the film, that's when they flash over to Lee Brackett, who's now retired, and he's a security guard at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. And he hears Strode. He's like, Laurie. So you only see and hear him say that, and then that's it until later, a little bit later on. So here, he hears Karen say that, and then well, before this, he hears some. I'll make sure I just wrote it all down because it's just a little bit different than the film. Short bracket. Here's Karen talking about Laurie. Here's a name mentioned. Then we flash to Allison, who deflects Karen's hug, and she feels bad because I guess they're just standoffish a little bit because they feel bad because they were both wrong about everything Laurie was talking about. She talked about this her whole life, saying this is going to happen, and they all thought she was out of her mind and how it ruined their family. And now they're just all at odds with each other and feeling awkward because not only was she right, but it killed her husband and Allison's father, along with a lot of other people. So they're just a little off with each other. Let me see. Change this page. So Karen is thinking of how she tried to keep Allison from her, and Karen didn't know. And it mentions here, I tried all these years. I tried to keep her away because I thought she was crazy, and she was right. And Karen didn't know who her father was, so she was thinking about Laurie and how things could have been different. Maybe things would have been different had she had a father in the picture. And it says here, Karen didn't know who her father was. So it says she was divorced twice, but apparently those two guys were not Karen's dad because she would have known who her father was. So apparently there's no mention of who the dad is. And of course, this is the scene where Karen's thinking about Ray. She's got a wedding ring on, and she goes to wash up in the women's room. Allison wanted some time alone after the event, so she goes in the other direction. And Karen was wondering why she's still hanging onto the knife, and it's wrapped in Laurie's bloody shirt because they still have the knife. And then this part is different. So when Karen comes out, Brackett comes over and says, "It's him. It's Michael Myers." And Allison said, "Yes, it was." So he obviously had heard what was going on because obviously they're bringing people in, and I'm sure he heard the news. So, and he knew now by what she said that Laurie was there, and he confronts Karen and says, "It was Michael Myers, wasn't it?" And she says, "Yeah, it was." But then she turns to Brackett and says, Allison turns and says, Laurie killed him. And Brackett says, "He murdered my daughter Annie," and Allison recognizes his name on his tag that says, Lee Brackett. He realized he was the sheriff and says that he burned alive in her basement. And Brackett says, "I would have loved to watch him fry." And then Allison says, "Me too," because obviously she left. And that's how chapter 5 ends. And that's our 5 chapters for this episode. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Maybe Lindsay Wallace could have been a caretaker for Laurie, not for Michael Myers. Yeah. Maybe Lindsay Wallace could have been you rewrote it. Okay. And I thought Hawkins was Karen's dad, but that was never mentioned. No, I don't think so. No. Because even how they talk about how things could have been, and they only had that one kiss. So I guess it was really never mentioned who the father was. Yeah, Allison talking to Brackett is on the Blu-ray 4K deleted scenes. Yes, I don't know why they didn't have that there because basically in the film you just hear him. He's like a crazy old man. He's just like Laurie, and that's all you hear. And that's one of my problems with this film. They brought all these legacy characters back and didn't develop their characters, and really were there for fan service to be killed off. You got the original sheriff who lost his daughter. Could have done a little bit more with him. And so we'll meet in 2 weeks. We'll do another 5 chapters. I believe I forget how many chapters there are. Let's see. There are a total of 25 chapters. So we just do 5 per episode. So you figure we did 5, 10, 50. So 3 more episodes. 5 chapters each. Give you guys plenty of time to do it because the chapters, they're averaging about a half hour. If you do the audiobook, they're averaging about a half hour per chapter. So if you can find some time. I did all this, and I actually went back and refreshed myself on all this material because I know the movie, but I like to make sure I didn't miss specifics within the book, so I make notes. But like I said, things just got crazy with the holidays, and I just couldn't fit it in. But hopefully we're back on schedule. So in 2 weeks from tonight, we will do episode 2, unless something happens. But that's really it. I guess the guys, hold on. I think I got a message from the guys. Let's see. Joe won't make it. No go. Parents just got into town last second visit. Yeah, so they got busy tonight, which is not a big deal. Not a big deal. Everybody gets busy. Everybody's got families. Like I said, I only canceled this and moved this thing, 3 times? So shit happens. That's what happens. But, we'll do a couple of quick shameless plugs for what's going on here in the channel over the next week or two. And then we'll call it a night and make sure everybody does their homework for episode 2 in 2 weeks. So episode 2 will be in 2 weeks, chapters 6 through 10. And if you haven't watched our top 5 movies in space that we did on that horror movie podcast, check it out. That's up on the channel now. Go check out my Friday the 13th part 2, part of my What If series. And I did not get a chance. I'm going to try. I was trying to do them each Friday because it's Friday the 13th. Not the number, but it's a Friday. And just didn't have a chance to. So I'll probably have this out next week, my Friday the 13th part 3 What If. And be sure to tune in to that horror movie podcast this Sunday. We'll have our good friend Bill from the Everscathed on, and we're going to do our favorite songs and bands, moments in horror. And there's our made-up band, and we were calling it what? Shit. What the hell were we calling the band, guys? Hold on a second. Let's see. We were calling the band Lipstick Nipple. That's it. Yeah. Looks a little weird. But that's this Sunday. Make sure you come hang out. Oh, and then Tuesday night. Don't miss Tuesday night, man. This is one of my favorite Stallone films. We're going to do a live watch long of Demolition Man. Love this film. Yeah, we did The Running Man on Tuesday, and we were like, oh man, we should do another action type film. So we figured, what the hell? Let's do Demolition Man. We're all big Stallone fans. Make sure we're here every Sunday for that horror movie podcast, every Tuesday for that live movie watch long, every other week for the Halloween book club until we're done with the Halloween books, and then we might move on to the Friday the 13th books. And if you want to listen to the podcast, each podcast episode streams on all these platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Helps a brother out. It helps the channel grow. We can do more stuff. And if you're Facebook people, go make sure you join that horror movie podcast Facebook group. Joe's not here tonight, but go check out Joe's channel. He's starting to get a lot of cool footage up on his channel. Go check it out. Him and his lovely wife, MB, Mary Beth. And they have a Facebook group for the podcast, for their podcast as well. So check all the shit out. All the stuff is in the description of this video. So click everything. You know what? Don't cost nothing, right? Make sure you subscribe, all that happy horse shit. Let's see what's going on with Byron. I did send you my what ifs for the Halloween franchise. Did you send it on Instagram or did you do it on YouTube? Because I'm still catching up. This has been a crazy week. I'm trying to catch up on a lot of stuff tonight. A lot of comments on videos and other stuff. Is it on Instagram, Byron? Because I'll go check it out because I'm playing catch up. On Facebook, and I am. Let's see. I'm clicking on your I am now. I saw all your extra scenes in the stuff here. Let's see. Oh, that's right. You did send that list of what ifs. Oh, I did read this. I thought it was something different. Oh, because you did it as franchise what ifs. I read it all as different ones. That's why I was thinking if you had a separate one just for other ones. I'm going to go back and reread it because I remember reading it late at night and I don't remember it all, but I want to go back and reread it. That's the thing. It's just lately, those that follow the podcast, my job description changed and I'm basically doing 2 jobs now. So whereas I had a lot more free time to do this stuff, it's like finding time is at a premium these days until things settle down. So a lot of standalone videos have slowed down a little bit. Actually, this weekend, I have nothing going on. So I'm going to try to get a lot done, like the Friday 13th part 3 and some other stuff I've been putting off. Maybe some more Halloween stuff too. Halloweeny. But thanks for hanging out. Shout out to Byron, who's been a big supporter and looking forward to this. And yeah, we'll be back here in 2 weeks, Byron. And yeah, go check if you're just here just for the Halloween content, there's plenty of it on this channel. So just search around. Check out all the Halloween what ifs. Those were a lot of fun. I'm almost sad they're over because I was having such a ball with them. So go check them out. Check out the Friday the 13th ones, the podcast, watch along, standalone videos. Go check out all our H45 stuff. We had a ball at H45. But that's going to be it for me tonight. I'm going to call it a night. Try to catch up on some stuff since this is a shortened episode. Byron, thanks for hanging out, man. Thanks for the support. Good talking to you. And like I said, everybody, if you have other comments, hit me up because I always answer them. A little slow these days, but I do answer them. And that's what I'm going to try to catch up on tonight. So until the podcast on Sunday, everybody have a good week. Later.